All right, all right. I'm Rusty. Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening and happy Sabbath to each and every one
Sabbath.
of you. Good evening, guys. How you doing?
Doing good, doing good, doing good. Happy Sabbath, happy Sabbath.
Happy
Happy
Sabbath, man.
Sabbath.
Doing good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are here again after 2 weekends of, I would say vacation. We're here again tonight. We have a very, very, very important topic, and we don't have a lot of time. We're gonna get right into it. The topic for tonight, I have to, I have to make sure it's what's reflected on Facebook here. The topic for tonight is we're gonna be looking at is what is the topic for tonight again, Eric? You can clarify that for us, please.
Um, is the church or the seven Adventist church in an identity crisis?
Okay, it's the Seventh Adventist Church. Okay, I need to change that online.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so just take a moment to share the live at the same time.
1 second.
It say is the Seventh Adventist. It's a crisis. Great. All right, great topic. Well, is the Seventh Adventist Church in is an identity crisis. So we're gonna pray and then we're gonna get right into it. This is a very, very important subject to look into. I know a lot of people they wonder, and some people they think, and some people they truly believe the church, the Seventh Adventist Church, is facing an identity crisis. Let's just pray and get right into our discussion for tonight. Father God,
Mm-hmm.
we thank you so much for this opportunity once again, Lord, to be able to come on this platform to have one of the conversation that we that's been very important to us and to many other people, Father. We pray, O Lord, that your spirit will be with us, lead us in everything that we'll be saying. May something at the end of this discussion linger in somebody's heart, and may we learn something as panelists and also as everybody's listening from different platforms, Father. Lead us and guide us, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. It's the Seventh day Adventist Church and an identity crisis. Before I get very quickly with Eric and Leslie, let's very specific about something. We not tonight. We are not focusing on the is we're not saying is Adventism in an identity crisis. We are saying is the Seventh Day Adventist Church. So we are focusing very specifically on the Seventh Day Adventist Church as a denomination. Okay, so if we were to look at is Adventism in an identity crisis, the question to be like no, as long as Christ is the is the head of the church. Adventism, solely based on Christ, it can be an identity crisis. So we trying to
Mm-hmm.
look at objectively at the Seventh Day Adventist Church, which me and Leslie and Eric we are part of very proudly.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be our discussion for tonight. For those of you online listening, don't be afraid to share your ideas. Nobody's right here. There's no right or wrong. The Bible alone is right. The Bible
Mm-hmm.
alone is right. So, with all that being said, Leslie and Eric, why don't you start it with us, Eric? Because I know this is a topic
Uh,
that you are very, very familiar with and love.
yeah. So I do think in a larger stance that the SD denomination um is in I guess lately as I've been observing is running into a very a deep identity crisis issue. I think there's a misunderstanding of what I think the average person don't understand, you know, what Adventism really is. They are part of a church, and then they not on they I think they have a misconception of what that church is supposed to be like, or what is it? What is supposed to? What is a church that's Christ centered?
Mm-hmm.
With their belief, what does that look like, and how does that play out in the real world, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
there's two components to that, and I see an issue with that where I feel like one of the main thing I've noticed that caused the big shift to people perspective in regards to the church and had
Mm-hmm.
them not being able to, I guess, what it could be an identity crisis within that church, is the fact that I feel like people allow themselves to be influenced a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you speak to a lot of people within the church, and then you talk to them in regards to the belief of the church or the teaching of the church, and then one of the first things, like, whether it be, I've talked to people, like, different type of people,
Mm-hmm.
once you start developing the conversation, you start getting to the nitty gritty of it, and you start talking to a person. Slowly, you see that person political views start rising to the top,
Mm-hmm.
whereas their, I guess, their understanding of the church, or what they are supposed to be doing as a member of that church,
Mm-hmm.
it become very dim, in a sense. And the light of that is very dim, whereas the focus is more so on the issue that they are dealing with on the forefront, which could be a lot of times, it's not a I guess a bad thing in the sense, a lot of time when you speak to the person, but when you get to the meat of it, and I'm like, okay, but if this issue is addressed, would that connect with somebody being centered in Christ as
Mm-hmm.
a seven Adventist? You know what I'm saying? And that's where I think a lot of the problem for me coming back there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think
But I don't know. Go
yeah,
ahead.
there's kind of sound delay, but yeah, Eric, you say very. I like what I like your approach to this as introductory to this topic. Yeah. So basically, you were saying for a young person, specifically a young person, especially a young person, the
Mm-hmm.
identity of the Seventh Day Adventists can be skewed. It can be very obscured. It can be
Mm-hmm.
blurry
Mm-hmm.
and not understanding, okay, what is it that we are about? Are we about choice? Are we about,
Mm-hmm.
but are we about, there's the vegetarianism,
Mm-hmm.
veganism?
Yep.
Are we
Mm-hmm.
about just to go to church on Saturday? And what is it
Mm-hmm.
that we are truly about? What is the foundation? So that's what I
Mm-hmm.
got. What
Mm-hmm.
you basically were
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Well, we get
think.
back to it. Is that so? Let's get back to that. Let's get Leslie to give us.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, man?
I'm thinking in the same vein as Eric. But there's a lot of things that I've been looking at. For one, I do see how there's a lot of social engineering that's going around.
Mhm,
And I feel like our young people are falling prey to the attractiveness of all those social engineering that's going around. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the need to conform to the current trend is something that's they're being pulled into. Now,
mhm,
there's so many
Yeah.
different way this thing is happening, right? And this is why when you start studying spirit of prophecy, you start understanding certain things a little bit better, because there's so many different ways they can do it, right? So for one, it can
mhm,
be if you stray away from what that is the
mhm,
norm,
mhm,
you're gonna get spanked and you get back into the fold, because persecution is coming, so that's a given. But right now, it's more subtle. It's more subtle in the sense that there's a lot of things that we're accepting, and then we're straying away from these things, and we're not
mhm,
seeing what's going on. So I think the crisis is happening that way. And
mhm,
there's a book that I've been reading this week. Actually, I was gonna text it to you, Eric. It's
Mm-hmm.
1984. by George
19.
Orwell. It's it's a dystopian world. It's not a Christian book at all. It's a dystopian world. But what I
Right.
like about the book is because it literally puts you into the mind frame of the people that are doing social engineering. So there's one guy that pretty much strayed away from whatever the norm of the society was supposed to be about, right? And then he got captured,
Hmm.
and they took him to the headquarters, and he was being tortured, right? So
Mhm.
as he's being tortured, the handler looked at him, and he went like this. He was like, "How many fingers am I holding?" And the
Mhm.
guy's like, "4." And then he zapped him with electricity. He was like, "How many
Mhm.
fingers am I
Hmm.
holding?" Guy said 4. He zapped him again. So he put him in a perpetual state of despair and torture. And he kept telling him, "How many fingers am I holding?" The guy said 3. He was like, "There you go. There you go." It's like reality is not what you observe. Reality is what I tell you
Hmm.
it is.
That's what you.
So we can
Hmm.
see these things happening all over, man. And some of it we subject ourselves to it. And others they happen through subtle conditioning. And I think this is one of the things that pretty much our youth are slowly straying away from the path and what it was meant to be because they got distracted by all these other things that's going on in the world.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because one thing that we always talk about, and that's why, man, when I talk to my kids, when I talk to anybody for that matter, whenever they talk about I just want to be happy, I'm like, man, there's no such thing as perpetual happiness. Whoever tells you that, they're
Hmm.
lying to you. Because there's no way you can maintain a sustainable state of being happy all the time. That's why the Bible even says there's a time for everything. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you cannot be in the perpetual state. First of all, we live in a wretched world. How can you enjoy happiness 24/7? Yeah,
Mhm.
that's one of the things I would talk about all the time. So when you
Mhm.
go and seek out, being happy all the time, a lot of times they get you conditioned to believe that if you dive more into, you know, flesh things, then somehow you're gonna be happy. And then when you dive into these things expecting to be happy, and then you realize down the line you're never happy, which and then
Mhm.
that's another um now you have what you call an induced, because it's pretty much self-inflicted, induced depression, because what you were expecting to get you didn't get it. So I feel like there's so much things that's going on, the way the world is being engineered, and the way that all these nice subtleties that we're being exposed to slowly but
Mhm.
surely we're straying away from what the message was supposed to be about. And I feel like those are the ways in which that we are living what the 70 Adventists was supposed to be about.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So basically, Leslie, so you were saying, uh, this Seven Adventist identity can be uh can be confusing to a young person because there's so much going on, and we've been trying to embrace. We've been trying to entertain too much of this world, so become so much uh we become so identical to what's going on in the world, and that can be confusing to a young person. So that's what I
Let, let,
basically.
let's
Go ahead.
take
Go ahead, Leslie.
let's take Solomon for example, right?
Hmm.
We know Solomon walked on both extremes. Okay,
Hmm.
when he was walking with God, he walked with God. When he was walking with the devil, he walked with the devil. But at
Hmm.
no point did when Solomon left God did he try to act like he was still with God, but yet was incorporating devil aspect worshiping into what is deemed okay for God. Meaning,
Hmm.
if you're gonna make a stance and this is where you're gonna go, you might as well
Hmm.
go that route and be all about that. Or
Hmm.
if you because we need to understand exactly what we stand for. You know, dabbling makes us feel good because somehow we get you know, some points. We give ourselves some points because we feel good. But at the end of the day, if we're straying away, we're straying away. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So trying to double dipping and trying to you know, and I'm not saying this is something that's like easy. It's not. It's easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
But understanding where you stand and be able to call yourself out on what's going on is one of the most important thing you can do. Instead of
Mm-hmm.
trying to, you know, be in a state of delusion where you're acting like you don't understand what's going on. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? If you are straying away from what it was supposed to be, you straying away. But don't
Mm-hmm.
try to make it seem like, oh, no, this is not acceptable because I need you to accept me in that new situation. You see what I'm saying? So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You
Well,
know, you know,
go ahead, Eric.
one thing I noticed, I kind of see what Leslie's saying right now. There's one thing I wanted to do, but after I thought about it, I'm like, maybe the spirit of what I wanted to do was not maybe a spirit of Christ, Christ-led spirit. So I kind of left that project aside. One thing I wanted to do, I wanted to get my camera one day and go to like different Adventist churches,
Mm-hmm.
and then and ask different people, from a regular young person to an adult or to a elder, even to a pastor,
Mm-hmm.
like, what is Adventism? Explain to me what Adventism really, is, or explain to me what does it mean to be a Seventh Adventist,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. And so you could hear, so I could get people perspective. You know what I'm saying? Or whether it be like, what is the third angel message, for example, to you? You know, what does that mean? So I could get people perspective on it. But then I thought about it, my man. It could get ugly. People giving crazy answers, and people might think like, well, this person is bad. So I'm like, well, that's a good idea. I thought about it, but the reason behind that is because I was seeing like such a big problem, man, and then kind of like what Liz is saying is like, the person trying to explain, like somebody trying to tell you like, or to accept him, like, kind of the same thing, like when the person with the book, he was reading, hand four, he put number four up, but then the person really want to tell you that it's three, but really you see it's four. And kind of the same thing with the church is like we have a certain type of belief. We have the 28 fundamental beliefs, and then, well, this is what our belief is when we have our 28 fundamental beliefs already, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I started understanding with a lot of people within the church, man, is that a lot of people don't know, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A lot of a lot of, because sometimes I even have a conversation with my own family, man, whether with my brothers or my mom or in-laws, man. And I'm sometimes I'm like, I'm dumbfolded. I'm like, these people be in the church for 25, 30, 40 years, man. And then you'd be surprised how much the person doesn't understand certain things or don't know certain things. And it kind of got me to, ponder more on that. I'm like, like, what's causing that issue, man?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can somebody be in the church for like 25, 30 years, but they have a superficial idea of what that church is? And a lot of times they end up fighting for something. They're trying to fight for something that they don't even know what they're fighting for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then
Father,
that in itself start
my
creating
God.
so much conflict, because it's like okay, like what are you really fighting for? Like, what are you fighting against? You know what I'm saying? Is that contrary to your 28 fundamental beliefs, or is it part of your 28 fundamental beliefs, or are
That's
you just
interesting.
fighting something because of what you want it to be like? You know what I'm saying? It's like where's the fight coming from? And then, man, it just made me wonder, like, man,
Yeah.
there's a need for a lot of study in regards to. I feel like if the people, the core group member, the church need to know, okay, this is what the church stands for. These are all the 28 fundamental beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
We don't shake from there. Right? This is where we don't disagree on these. This is
Yeah.
our foundation. This is
Well,
our set. I guess, when you build in a house and you're saying that's the foundation that's built up on the rock. This is the rock. This don't
yeah.
go nowhere. Now,
It's you said
when
something very important, Eric. Something very important,
mhm,
and interesting. And I'm going to, for those of you who just joined this live, we're looking at the identity of the Seventh Day Adventist Church.
mhm,
We're talking about the identity. We're not questioning the identity. We're looking into the identity. We're just the three young,
mhm,
people. We're just looking into this thing. We concerned, and we
yeah,
man, this is a democratic society we live in, and we have something to say too. We have something to say too. So Eric, something you said is very important. Sometimes if you're not fighting for your identity, if
Mhm.
your fight is really not for what is your identity, your purpose,
Mhm.
you might be fighting for the wrong stuff. Before we get more into that, let me go to one of the conference. I could go to the general conference just to get the mission of the church of a Seventh Day Adventist church. So I'm gonna share my screen and I'm gonna read it. Uh, okay, it's so we can be together, right?
Mhm.
So let's share this here. Okay, there we go. All right. Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, good, good, good.
If I have to
So
zoom in, if you can zoom in a little bit more, so people that are watching, they could be able to read it. Because I could see it, but I
yeah,
have to strain my eyes to be able to read it.
yeah, I'm gonna zoom it in. Let me zoom
Yeah.
it. Okay, let me go full screen. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
what did I do? Nah. All right, I was good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it says the mission, our church mission, right? The mission of the Seventh Adventist Church is to call all people to become disciples of Jesus Christ, to proclaim the everlasting gospel, embraced by the three angels' messages in Revelation chapter 14, verse 6 through
Mm-hmm.
12, and to prepare the world for Christ's return.
So return.
So basically, see, this is I just wanted to make sure everybody on the same page with that. This I
Mm-hmm.
got this from one conference. It's everywhere. All the general, whether not general conference, or the local conferences, they have the same wording. They may have it in
Mm-hmm.
different place, but it's the same thing. It's some.
Mm-hmm.
It is what the church as a whole we believe in. This is the
Mm-hmm.
definition of this is our mission there. So
Mm-hmm.
go back to the identity that you were mentioning, Eric. I believe we have a very true identity. We are called by God, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and anybody in this life, if you are the president, a president of the United States, I think your purpose is to lead this country based on what you want to portray, what you have
Mm-hmm.
as a goal to lead this country to. Nobody comes to this
Mm-hmm.
country to get crazy. If you are the president of the Seventh Adventist Church, I know you were appointed to this church because you have something in your heart when you were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So you had dreams, right? So what I'm trying to say, whatever that you are appointed to, you fight to become a leader of.
Mm-hmm.
There's something you're trying to prove. So as Seventh-day Adventists, we have an identity. If we do not focus on what we are here to do, we are here, man, to preach the everlasting gospel. We are supposed to be the most loving, appreciating,
Mm-hmm.
the most I would say the most loving people in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of who we are because we so much our mission is so immersed, is so intertwined with the life and character of Christ, my Lord. So
Mm-hmm.
our mission, going back to if we can stand for what our mission truly is,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of fights we're having in our different churches today, it's just fighting for the wrong stuff.
Yeah, we're fighting for the wrong thing, man. That's
We are
true.
fighting. We should
We're
be
fighting for
fighting. Man. I'm telling you, this is the work of the devil. That's why when as we were preparing for this presentation, I think Leslie or Eric mentioned. I think it was Eric. You mentioned about the church has been hijacked. I think Leslie mentioned that, right?
let's mention that.
Yeah. So hijacked. Me, I'm thinking we are being hijacked by the force of the darkness. That's the number one. That's the number one. So all these little hijack, hijacked by a certain person, some key players, they are agents. So
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying is anybody who would come like, with a very malicious ideology to hijack the Seventh Adventist Church, it would be something that is motivated by the force of darkness. So the Seventh Adventist Church is a church that's seated on Christ. The message that we have, man, it's so powerful, man. It's so powerful. There's no way you push this message appropriately. People will be at, oh man. It's almost like we have everything. Our identity gives up everything what this world needs. So, bro, we're talking about the coronavirus, right? Nobody have the answer to this thing. And we have a hope. Everybody, like, what's their hope? What is it that, what's the hope that we have no hope in this life? And Seventh Adventist, not only Seventh Adventist, but Seventh Adventist specifically, because of the Adventist aspect of the message. Because it's really looking at Jesus is coming again. This is the emphasis, right? Emphasis is on Jesus is coming again. Get ready. So it's like saying, okay, some guy is gonna be president of the United States. He's gonna turn this country is gonna go back on its feet. So that's the idea. Everybody think about it. If somebody were to say, okay, some president is coming for sure to fix this country, man, everybody will be looking forward to this thing. And we would not be talking about, man, there's no hope for the youth. There's no hope where this country is going. Everybody will be focused on, man, we have a hope. It's the same reality we have as 7-Eleven. But we should be focused on what's our mission. Our mission, we should be fighting for the truth. We should be fighting, not fighting brothers and sisters. The Bible says we fight not, the fight is not against flesh and
Blood.
blood. We should stop fighting, your brother and your sister and the churches say the wrong things, being mean. If you have the wrong personality, man, you need to go to Christ with that. Don't just strike somebody with it. So this is part of us losing our identity. It starts from the local churches to the local conference until you go all the way up. Everybody just fighting their own fight. So that's what I think.
One thing I noticed also.
Go ahead.
But there's two things I noticed so far that cause two big issues in the SDA church, and then both of them have to do with people not having an identity in Christ, and because they don't have the identity in Christ and have the relationship with Christ, it becomes a big problem. So one person, some people are fighting themselves. They think their identity as a Seventh Adventist is to try to mimic the SDA teachings as close as possible. Like when you see that person, you can look at the person, you're like, okay, that's a Seventh Adventist. They just like a Seventh Adventist. They eat tofu every day and vegetables every day for lunch. they have that. Okay, that person look like an Adventist. But once you start getting close to that person, you can see that person don't know that person do not know Christ at all. But they have Adventism as a church. They have the doctrine, the teaching they understand them, or they trying to live their life according to that. They have like a identity in regards to it's like they have a denominational identity, but I don't think it's the identity so far is intertwined with them having that relationship with Christ that lead them to those beliefs. It's almost like the belief is leading them to, I don't know, it's I haven't put my head around it, but I hope you guys can get what I'm trying to say. It's like the beliefs are become the identity, but they do not know Christ, right? That's the best way I could put it. Then there's this other side, but then there's the other side. They reject all the teaching of the church, and then they want to make things become so appealing to the world, and they think the church is too restrictive. Their identity is more so on that on the fact that we need to let people be more free, be more just be more open, and then the idea of open is pretty much to be as close, but just put Christ on it. And then you get close to that person, you see also the same thing to that person have no identity. They don't even know who Christ is. Also,
so you're saying, so basically both sides are doing lip service, huh?
Both sides is doing lip service. One of them is doing it in a more worldly perspective, where they like you could tell that person is like they listen to rap on probably Monday to Friday, but on Saturday they come to church and They just following the Sabbath in those things. And there's
It's
the other
so
person you could,
insane, man. You make me laugh, but it's sad.
but then you can see the other side. That person maybe they might not be listening to rap and or Monday to Friday, but they probably listen to a lot of conspiracy videos or crazy other
Yeah.
nonsense throughout the week. But they're not really taking time to really build that relationship and know who Christ is and be founded upon Christ, and then have the foundation in Christ, and then that motivate them to become who they are. And then it's like the person don't have no love in them.
Yeah. So
It's like,
Eric, let me make sure we get this thing right, man. Let me make sure I get it right. So listen, make sure. So you saying the first thing you said, it stuck with me. You said that we have the doctrines. We have the doctrine. There's no question about that. But
Mhm.
because Christ is not really the center, we call it Christo,
Yeah.
Christocentric. He's not the
sensual.
center,
Yeah. Mhm.
epicenter.
Mhm.
He's not. It's not
Mhm.
like he's walking among the doctrine,
Mhm.
just like he's walking among the candlestick. You know,
Yeah. Mhm. Exactly.
in Revelation. So because he's not really leading, he's not the motivation, he's not the drive of the doctrines. Christ
Exactly.
is not the
Mhm.
center. It's a problem.
Mhm.
And on
Yeah.
the other
Exactly.
side, you have some people. Paul call it. I think Apostle Paul. It says that there's a. I'm not thinking of what he said exactly, but like Jesus plus. That's a term that
Yeah.
Paul used.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I
So
know. I
on
know what you
the
mean.
other side, there's a Jesus, but the plus something,
Mhm.
something
Mhm.
that's off
Yeah.
of their own thing. So both
Yeah.
sides,
Exactly.
one side is really promoting Christ, but it's really like a
Mhm.
Christ that is not really where there's no substance.
Yeah.
Is that what you're
There's
saying?
no. There's no. Yeah. There's like it's like a Christ that don't have a standard. There's a standard. A standardless Christ. That's what we put it.
Oh, okay. That's very interesting. We need to, and in reality, we're supposed to be both. We're supposed to be,
Exactly.
the
I mean, all
doctrines.
three in the sense.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
All
wow.
three.
So,
The doctrine,
mhm.
Christ, and be as progressive to attack the world as possible. It's all
Mm,
three.
mm,
And I think a lot of people sometimes forget that it is all three. You gotta
mhm,
have the doctrine, and it has to be like firmly. But
mm,
then all those doctrine, whenever it presented or teach, it has to be on the Christ, our righteousness, or Christ, the reason. You know what I'm saying? That's the centerpiece. Like if you tell the person about diet, and then you're not putting the reason why Christ gave you that type of diet and the reason why Christ wants you to live that understanding the reason why Christ wants, you know what I'm saying? Then there is the idea of like, as time progresses, you have to try to get evolved with the time that you are living in. There are certain things, certain things you see the world do that they are good. It doesn't mean because the world is doing it, I mean automatically it's evil. You know what I'm saying? If
mhm,
you bring in those things in, yes, there's certain things you could bring in, but make sure that whatever you bring in it's not to just promote self or promote certain type of teaching that's not aligned with the fundamental teaching. If it's to
mhm,
enhance the fundamental teaching and enhance someone being in a relationship with Christ, there's no problem with that. You know what I'm saying? One of the
mhm.
things this I was having a conversation with this gentleman, with a pastor, and he's most of like he's in charge of like church plants. Like he go on he trying to help plant churches, around the region where I stay. And then one of the things he said, man, he said, there's a pastor. I don't know. It's not Creflo Dollar. It's one of those other guys like not George. It's one of those guys, those older guys, but he's very popular. On Thomas Evans or something like that. Tony Evans.
Tony, yeah.
You mean Tony Robbins?
Evan,
No,
Evans.
it's a black guy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Evans. I think it's an Evans
Tony
guy.
Evans from Moody
Yeah,
Radio and Evangelical.
yeah, it's like an
Yeah.
evangelical, but he's saying like like a lot of time people preach or talk about those guys. They think like those guys don't have a standard in regards to their church. He like, bro, you'd be surprised. Their standard is probably higher than the SDA standard. And
They
he like,
do.
bro, if
Mhm,
if you were to follow if you were to follow some of the principles, some of the stuff they do, we'll probably see a lot more result in regards to how we attract people to the word and bring a lot of people to the church. It's just because they evangelicals, or doesn't mean everything they do is wrong. It sparked my interest. I'm like, yeah, tell me more about it. The way he
mhm,
explained it, it's like those guys, the way they do their churches, it's like as people come in and say they want to bring Christ, let's say like the three of us here, right? We've been in the church for a long time, right? They create different groups. They create study groups that that if you part of the church, they're gonna see your identity, what your interest in. If they say if you're interested in sport or music and stuff like that, they trying to put you in a group with all the people that are interested in music, that are interested in sport, and trying to put you with that group of people, so that throughout the week, because all y'all already have the same interests, but you're trying to follow Christ, and then they put somebody as a leader of that group that's been in the church mature for a long time, that understand the church teaching, and that's trying to bring you up to the level throughout the week when they meeting up in y'all, and then they teaching you stuff, and they keep in touch with you, so you can have a family or a group that you can stay connected with throughout the week. So when Sunday come for the church service, and then to help you grow and build your spiritual, help you build yourself up spiritually. And one thing he says, like, well, if those people, like, they bring you to that group now, you say you want to join their church, they bring you to that group, and then they hit you up all the time. They tell you, we have a Bible study, and you don't want to show up to Bible study, or they tell you, okay, well, here some of the things we don't drink, we don't do those things, and they see like you're not making effort. And they say like you're not even this might not fit for you. You say they will tell you, well, this not, what can we do? Before they even kick you out, they're trying to go to you. Okay, what can we do to make your Christian experience better? You know what I'm saying? What can we do to help you go spiritually? And they want to listen to your concern. They want to.
It's like we as Adventists, sometimes we have we kind of have some kind of attitude, right? We have an attitude when it comes to the other denominations, right? But what they are doing, they very intentional. They're intentional about what they do. And of course, I know there's a lot of challenges when it comes to. We're not trying to be sitting here, be critical. We gotta be, we gotta look at the challenges as well. I know we have our own challenges, but they very intentional about what they do. We just inside looking at them, say, okay, they not fully where we are, and we are where we are. We are falling backward. So it's basically I think we waste a lot of time. Like this guy, they really intentional about what they do, man. If whatever they stand for community. That's what you better believe it. That's what you gotta do. They stand for being rich, and that's what you better believe it. That's what they gotta do. If they want to promote prosperity gospel, they do it.
Yep, they do it. They help. They believe their stuff, and they create a system where they'll fit you in to get you, I guess, grafted into their system.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you want to move with us, we're down with you. But if you don't want to move,
before I let Leslie, let Leslie go though, I'm sorry, because
I know.
let's say this.
No, that's good. Like, I've been listening to you, but one of the things.
Go ahead, Leslie.
One of the things you said, Eric, man, and I actually was watching a debate the other day, and I realized how important it is, because in the Bible, and I was looking for the exact reference in the Bible, it says that we're gonna have to defend our faith. We're gonna have to explain why we believe in the things that we believe. And I saw a display on that the other day, where there was a Christian guy that was debating a secular guy, right? And the secular guy told him that you cannot have any real proof of God, and you cannot base your morality on God. This is crazy. So then God was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Okay, cool. Let's say someone comes up to you and tell you murder is good, okay, because based on his belief, murder is good. Then you're gonna tell them that murder is good because murder is bad because you believe in God. So then you are pulling from your morality. You are pulling your morality from God. So he was like, how do you prove that based on the morality aspect of it? Because they're both pulling from different points of reference. You see what I'm saying? But then the guy didn't know how to respond to it. He was like, this is what's wrong with basing your morality on God, because you can't prove God. I mean, there's so many different ways he could have went, but he didn't know how to respond to that one crucial question. So now imagine how many people, and I'm telling you, these guys have like hundreds of thousands of people watching them, and
Yeah.
their their uploads get 5 million views. You know what I mean? So then all these people, let's say they're very impressionable, they get to see someone that's supposed to be representing God and not being able to make a case as to why basing your morality on God is the way for them to go.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important for us to know that, I mean, at some point we're going to have to defend our faith. We're going to have to explain why we believe in the thing that we believe in. And we're going to have to know exactly how to make a case for it. And those things are important because,
Mhm.
I mean, I've always, because I know one of the things they do, like the first thing they do, they try to dismiss the Bible so they can make a case for what they believe in, because they try to dismiss the Bible. And if they disarm you that way, then they can try to pretty much void any other argument that you can make. But there's so many, like, that's what we got to be very well versed and very proficient at making our case
Mhm.
into why we believe in things that we believe. Another thing I wanted to
Mhm.
ask you guys, what, and that's referring to 70 Adventist. Which do we feel like is stronger? Which should we follow more, the Bible or the church manual?
Well, let me go first.
That's,
So,
that's a deep question, bro. That's a
well,
that's a
and
man.
the way you study and in school we learn, I would say very specifically in theological school we learn, you know, you don't go to the Bible with presuppositions. It's another one. Not Let me say it another way. You don't go to the Bible with ideas, right? If you go with the Bible with an idea, then you will let the Bible, let the Bible uh prove your idea. That's wrong. You have to go to the Bible first. So that being said, you have to go to the Bible, then you you say what the Bible say, and you let the Bible lead your ideas. All right. So with that being said, the doctrines of the church, that's why they have a whole bunch of references. Specifically the manual, church manual. Everything that they have there, there's a reference to it. It's from the Bible. They've done the best that they could to make to for that to stick with the Bible. There may be a lot of technicalities, based on the time that we live in. The Bible doesn't have every example for every situation, even for this life that we have today. It's not a time of the Bible. We have to translate, you know, to this time. We have to translate the Bible to our time. So that being said, I would say it's a false premise. I would not I would not approach the situation with the differentiation. With differentiation. Does that make sense?
I mean, I get
If
it.
you approach it with differentiation, you get yourself in a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well, the reason I'm saying that is because I think there's amendments being done to the church manual, right?
Hmm.
They make amendments to them, like they change different things. I understand how it reflects the time, you know what I mean? But I think the Bible is the foundation upon which that we follow. The church manual is more like an organizational tool as to how to manage the church itself. So, however, there are we should be aware there are some changes that may happen that may go straight away from the Bible.
Hmm. That, yeah, it may not directly reflect. For example, if we take slavery, right? Slavery, the Bible does not abolish slavery. So the slavery is left is it's up to you to know if you should love your brother, love
Wait,
your.
in there?
No, the Bible does not.
No, the
It
church
doesn't
manual.
condemn.
No. I'm saying in general. I'm not looking at the church manual. I'm just taking an example. example of, in the Bible, doesn't Jesus never abolished say anything. And in fact, he said, slaves, obey your masters.
Mhm.
So so it
I think that conversation is just like a whole bunch of different things. Because in
Mhm.
today's world, we don't care much about facts. We're more loyal to our emotions than anything. Um,
That's
that
true.
and it's a learned behavior. I feel like it's a
Mhm.
learned behavior. Like we're more loyal to our emotions than anything. Our emotions reign
Social media.
supreme
Mhm.
on
Mhm.
anything.
Mhm.
So some of these things,
Sentimentalism. Yeah.
yeah. Some of these things, there's a deeper connotation to it, but we don't want to waste our time. So we make some
Yeah.
generalized assumptions for these things and we keep it moving. We don't try to understand the deeper concept and the context of those things because a lot of those practices they've been there for eons. You know what I mean? So it's not a new phenomenon, but again, we're more loyal to our emotions than the reality.
Maybe we need to have a series on the church Adventist church manual. That would be cool.
That's
Oh
true.
man, yeah. Because
That would be, that would be
my
cool.
thing is, and now put two and two together into what I'm saying, right? Because at first I was saying like I feel like some of the aspects of church being hijacked by some actors that
Hmm.
don't really have the church's best interest at heart,
Hmm.
and then two, the manuals, the guidance upon which that we should move, and they can do amendments to it. So if they amend anything so then what do we do? If
Hmm.
what if they make an amendment that the point that I'm making is this, right? The idea of the 70 Adventist Church is a very good idea. It's founded in the truth. I believe that the people that were, they were inspired, to come up with this movement. But I think just like they were inspired, I believe that the counterattack is the devil. And I believe that the devil is trying to make his own work on the opposite side. And I believe
Hmm.
that we should be wary of all these things and know and learn how to diagnose and recognize these things as they are appearing on the forefronts
Hmm.
of our church. And that's why even Ellen G. White said the church should have never been something stationary, should keep moving.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Movement.
so
Yeah.
so the problem is this thing was supposed to be an idea, not an organization like it is right now.
Mm.
They like if when you believe in some precepts and when they're deep and when you have some deeply held values in your heart, they can't
Hmm.
alter that. But when you have an organization that is built on so many different principles, it's easy. They can alter that because what you have in your heart, they can't take it away.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, let's say you're facing judge and all of that, what you have in your heart is all you have.
Hmm.
But the organization itself, that can be altered and changed,
Hmm.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm probably going to
Well,
the deeper end here.
yeah. Well, it's our time is off anyway, so we that's another discussion, man. We need to think about that. Bringing the It would be nice to salivate on the whole, you know. It's a book, man. It's a book. Church manual. It's yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. It's a lot of things in there. They're not directly from the Bible, but they really the just like Paul would give his opinion on certain things, but his opinion does not mean he has a very, wild, liberal, secular opinion. He's a man of God. His opinion is from God as from the vein of spirituality. So yeah, that's a very good, interesting thing. We need to have something like that. It would be cool. Well, guys, so let's have the last thing you would. What would you suggest, Eric, to someone, a young
Hmm.
person who's listening? who's having a lot of question about the identity of the Seventh Day Adventist Church. What would you say to that person in
Um,
terms of a word
man, it's a
of
loaded question, man.
confidence? Mm,
It's a loaded question because sometimes, a lot of time, what I'm noticing right now, man, after when people usually have a lot of question after about the identities of the church, oftentimes it's because they already made up their mind in regards to something already, what they think the church should be. You know what I'm trying to
mhm,
say? Whether it be from the
mm,
left side or the right side of the church, sometimes you get the right people, the dogmatic, very
mhm,
dogmatic people that think the church is also the identity of Christ, is because they want the church to be a certain way. Also, very dogmatic and just not, what I'm saying, being
mhm,
a church
mhm,
that Christ had called it to be. Um, but the thing, I will come down to it first, man. I would counsel that person to trying to find the first step is to start with a relationship with Christ and navigate that person to that step of being in a relationship with Christ first, and then from there I would tell that person to push to move forward to
mhm,
focus a lot more on the 28 fundamental beliefs of the church to understand them.
mhm,
And I feel like if the person have Christ and they understand the relationship with Christ, navigating through the 28 fundamental belief is easy.
mhm,
If Christ is already there, they won't fight against that. They won't
mhm,
fight against the fundamental belief. And I think a lot of times the fight will come in with those people if they don't have Christ, and then people trying to force that person to accept something
mhm,
that they don't see or not be to accept, and
mhm,
there will be tension there. But if the person have a genuine
mhm.
relationship with God, they genuinely want to serve God, and they have that desire to want to serve God, and I would encourage that person to, develop that
Yeah.
thing with through prayer and reading the Word. And I tell them, okay, just take it one at a time. Just take one doctrine at a time. As you study the Word, just
Mhm,
take one doctrine at a time and study them together, one at a time.
mhm,
And if you have questions, if I'm counsel that person one on one, I'll be like, if you have any question, I'll be here. If you have a question about the doctrines, and I'll see, I'll give you the best answer to the reason why I accept them. That would be my take now, based on my experience through the church. But that's probably
very
the best thing
well.
I could tell that person, man, is build that relationship first, then navigate yourself through the doctrines one at a time, and take your time. Don't rush it. Um, if God is
Okay.
leading you, trust me, He'll get you there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I like that. I like that. So they need to be look forward to getting a relationship with the Christ of Adventism first. Look
Mhm.
out for the
Mhm.
Christ of Adventism. Be, say who's
Mhm.
who's that? Who's that, man? Who's
Mhm.
the backbone of this thing?
Mhm.
And which is Christ. So I like that,
Mhm.
Eric. So Leslie, you wanna add or what would you say to a young person, as how would you affirm a young person who's having questions about identity of our church, Seventh Adventist Church?
I'll tell you, don't try to mold Seven Adventism into something else. Don't try to conform it to whatever, don't try to conform it to what you want it to be. You know what I mean? And not to say that it is so, like, not to say the church is such a stringent and such a hard task that you can't do. Because, and that's
Mm-hmm,
another way for them not to look at it. Because a lot of people, they look at it, man, there's so much things to do. It's so hard. It's so tough.
mm-hmm,
Mhm.
Don't look at it from that standpoint. Just look at it for what it is and for what it's meant to
mm-hmm,
be. And
mm-hmm,
like Eric was saying, like actually learn about the deeply held beliefs on 70 Adventists and what it's meant to be. Because man, this world is going crazy, man.
mm-hmm,
And every
mm-hmm,
day we are reminded daily of all the things that are happening. You know,
mm-hmm,
we
mm-hmm,
can
mm-hmm,
see this thing is fast approaching. So what are you?
mm-hmm.
And we were supposed to be one of the only church that literally believe in the prophecy, because most churches pretty much do away with that. They don't even try to touch that.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
that alone show you there's a precursor. All these things that are supposed to happen. You know what I mean?
mhm,
So that alone should tell you how real all the
mhm,
things that 70 Adventists be talking about, how real they are, because everything they've been talking
mhm,
about in terms of prophecy, these things are happening.
mhm,
So
mhm,
don't try to dabble, don't try to morph the 70 Adventists into something that you can, that
mhm,
that are more to your worldly views.
mhm.
And when you make that choice to follow Christ, just follow it wholeheartedly and be
Mhm,
about
mhm.
Christ fully.
Yeah, well, that's very nice, very nice. I like that, Eric. Well, those are great stuff. So if you are a young person listening, so you got something to put in your arsenal, you know. Eric, share with us how you're supposed to seek the Christ of Adventism.
Mhm.
And Leslie said, do not morph this thing into something secular. You're gonna put yourself in a very, very difficult situation.
Mhm.
Just take it for what it is.
Yep.
Get to know what Adventism is all about. Adventism is Christ.
Mhm.
So the Seventh Adventists took place as a way to fulfill the mission of Christ. So if you're a young person, so always start with this tool, man. This great, these two great men of God just put in your arsenal. You start with Christ, and then you just stay true to what Adventist is. Just follow you the heart, the the spirit of Adventism. Okay. I think that was a very, very I learned a lot tonight. It was a
Mhm.
very great discussion. And I would say last thing I would say though, if you're a young person, uh I would let me not talk to a young person. I would talk to a church leader. If you're a pastor, you
Mhm.
are just take a moment to think about how difficult it is now to appeal to the youth. It's gonna become much more difficult as we go on. I'm taking 10 years from today, man. We may not even we may
If we make it.
haven't even not even be able to say good morning properly to a young person. So it's gonna
Yeah,
become
man.
much very, very much difficult. We need to start being true right now. Get to this thing, man, to the wire. Get real. Because the young people they want it to be real, man. Don't try to bring Christmas and tell them happy birthday. I'm seeing churches singing happy birthday Jesus, then preaching on pulpit say Jesus was not born on this. That's very confusing. If I had my child in that church, man, I'm like, man, I had I need to unchurch. I need to take that teaching out of you, and so I'm doing a lot of work here. Why? So somebody actually will so I'm saying just don't confuse the people. Just call it like it is and get straight to it.
Mhm.
Christ was not born on this on this that. Then you don't get him to call it just happy birthday Jesus singing on
Mhm.
pulpit. That's confusing. Well, I digress on that. Well, guys, thank you so much for this. Your time, and I would say thank you for those of you listening. And this is our time. We would wish you all happy Sabbath, and may God
Mhm.
be with you all. And I will see you. We will see you again next Friday for a
All right.
conversation similar.
Mhm.
Have a good night, and I
Good
will
night.
see you all. Bye bye.